In a world flooded with manipulation and illusion, Seduction Redefined offers a revolutionary approach to attraction, one rooted in authenticity, respect, and emotional integrity. This book reveals how genuine confidence, emotional intelligence, and ethical communication can make you magnetic without resorting to deceit. Whether you seek deeper romantic connections, stronger social influence, or a more grounded sense of self, this guide will teach you to attract through truth, not tactics. Before we begin, if you'd like more psychology audiobooks, subscribe now and click the like button to stay up to date. Let's get started. The new face of seduction. Here is the paradox that quietly rules our lives. People chase love by performing who they are not, and then feel lonely when the performance is applauded. We impress the room and lose ourselves in the echo. What if the real power to attract doesn't come from strategy or spectacle, but from the rare relief of being exactly who you are on purpose? Tonight, I want to speak to the part of you that is tired of overthinking your texts, tired of rehearsing lines in the mirror, tired of hoping that if you move exactly right, they will choose you. There is a shift happening in the world, subtle but strong, and you can feel it in your bones. The old game of seduction, push, pull, vanish, return, no longer satisfies. We are waking up from the glitter of manipulation into the calm light of mindfulness. Attraction is changing shape, not because human nature is new, but because our attention is more expensive and our nervous systems are louder than ever. People are anxious, people are overwhelmed, and in the noise, the rarest signal is safety. The new face of seduction is not a mask, it is a sanctuary. It is the experience in your presence of exhale. Think about how we used to talk about attraction. It sounded like war, weapons, tactics, conquest. The metaphors were all sharp edges, rules for how long to wait before replying, instructions for how to create jealousy, little tricks that turn your heart into a stage and your dates into an audience you must constantly entertain. It worked sometimes, but at a cost you paid later. The cost of keeping up the act, of wondering which version of you they actually liked, of building a connection on a scaffolding of careful moves instead of a firm ground of honest feeling. That model is outdated not because it never worked, but because it cannot carry us where we are trying to go now. We do not want to win an argument with loneliness. We want to be met by a person who has met themselves. Real connection today grows in the space most strategies ignore, the space of self-awareness. You cannot magnetize what you secretly resent, and you cannot keep what you pretend to be. So we begin in a different place. Before the message, before the meeting, there is the inner temperature you bring with you, the quiet music of your presence. When you walk into a room, your nervous system speaks first. Your breath teaches people how to feel around you. Your eyes say whether you can stand your own company. Your voice reveals if you are negotiating with yourself in real time. The most attractive people are not performing calm. They are regulated. They are at home in their bodies, and that home feels inviting to visit. Ethical magnetism is the name I give to this way of attracting. A steady pull created by authenticity, fueled by integrity, guided by empathy. It is not about making people want you. It is about allowing them to feel safe enough to notice that they already do. It is seduction without stealing energy, intimacy without pressure, influence without deceit. You are not using psychology to bypass consent or hack attachment. You are using self-knowledge to show up as a person who can hold another person's reality without collapsing your own. When you are grounded like this, your presence does the heavy lifting. You do less. You reveal more. You care without clutching. You tell the truth before it is convenient, and you listen for what is true in the other person, even if it is not flattering to you. Ethical magnetism does not burn quickly. It warms slowly. It is not fireworks on the first night. It is a hearth you keep returning to because it feels like a place you can think clearly. There is science underneath this poetry. Our bodies are social instruments, tuned to the frequencies of trust and threat. Mirror neurons echo the emotions we witness. The vagus nerve registers safety or danger in faces, voices, and rhythms. Heart rate variability tells the story of how flexible your calm is, how quickly you can recover from stress. When two people interact, their nervous systems begin to synchronize, a subtle dance called physiological coherence. In plain language, this means that the steadier you become, the easier it is for someone else to relax around you. Your breath becomes an anchor for their drifting mind. Your consistent tone quiets their defensive strategies. Your honest boundaries reduce their need to test you. Emotional resonance is not a trick. It is the natural outcome of two systems that feel safe enough to be real. That resonance is the chemistry you cannot fake for long and cannot analyze into existence. You build it through the small courtesies of presence, noticing, naming, pausing, and letting silence do some of the talking. This is why traditional tactics fall apart under modern pressure. Strategies that create anxiety also create a chase, and in a world already stretched thin, the chase feels like work. The reward becomes relief rather than joy. You get the date, but you are exhausted. You get their attention, but you must create micro-crises to keep it. Meanwhile, the apps multiply, the options expand, and the average human attention span shrinks into fragments. In this environment, novelty is cheap and steadiness is priceless. The people who stand out are not the loudest. They are the clearest. They do not beg for attention. They direct it. They do not seduce the crowd. They attune to the person in front of them. They do not play impossible games. They invite simple, honest choices. So how do you practice ethical magnetism in a way that is living and human, not stiff and scripted? Begin with the body. Before you say anything impressive, breathe in a way that is kind. Let your breath be visible in your voice. Speak slower than your anxiety wants and faster than your fear of silence demands. Look for one true thing you can admire in the other person and say it plainly, without polishing it into currency. Ask a question small enough to answer honestly. When you listen, listen with your face. Soft eyes, relaxed jaw, attention that has no agenda. When you share a detail of your present experience, not a story designed to control their impression of you. I'm excited and a little nervous to be here. I noticed I felt calmer as soon as you smiled. I've been thinking about that book all week. These are simple sentences, but they let your inside world breathe in the open air. People can feel the difference between a confession that seeks approval and a truth that simply seeks daylight. Next, honor boundaries before they are tested. Ethical magnetism draws strength from clarity. If you know what you can offer and what you cannot, say it warmly and early. You are not barricading yourself, you are furnishing the room. Clarity creates safety. Safety creates play. Play creates attraction. The moment you pretend to want what you do not, the magnet starts to weaken because you are asking the other person to feel what you refuse to feel. Authentic attraction grows when two people can be fully present without debt. You owe them nothing but your honesty. They owe you nothing but theirs. From this clean ground, desire can rise without apology. Then practice repair. In the old model, you win by never losing face. In the new model, you win by recovering connection after the inevitable missteps. You interrupted them. You over-explained. You shut down. Instead of doubling down on style, you returned to substance. I think I missed you there. Can we go back? I notice I got defensive. Give me a second to breathe. I want to understand, not win. These are not lines to memorize. They are muscles to train. When you repair well, you teach the future that it is safe to unfold with you. That promise of growth instead of perfection, is irresistibly attractive to people who are serious about being alive. Finally, remember that attraction is a side effect of alignment. When your inner life and your outer life match, you become easier to read, and in being easier to read, you become easier to trust. The glow others notice is not charisma. It is coherence. Your values are not decorations on your profile. They are choices you make when no one is watching. If you want to be magnetic, keep promises to yourself. Get enough sleep. Keep your word in small things. Tell the truth before your body forces you to. Become the kind of person whose presence is a permission slip for others to be genuine. Ethical magnetism is not a technique you turn on for dates. It is a way of living that naturally spills into every room you enter: work, family, friends, love. So as we begin this journey together, let's set down the heavy costume. Let's stop trying to be impressive and start being undeniable in a quieter way. You do not need a script to become more yourself. You need attention, patience, and the courage to let reality be a better artist than your anxiety. The cultural shift is here. From manipulating outcomes to mindfully meeting moments, from tricks that spike adrenaline to practices that cultivate presence, from chasing validation to building value, from seduction as conquest to seduction as care. The old maps are fading because the terrain has changed. The heart still recognizes what is real. When this video ends, consider a small experiment. In your next conversation, do one thing slowly on purpose. Breathe once for the other person, as if your exhale could make room for their truth. Say one honest sentence that doesn't try to control the response. Notice how your body feels when you stop performing and start relating. You may discover that the magnet you are trying to build outside has been quietly forming inside, waiting for your permission to work. And perhaps as you walk into your life with a little more coherence, you will see the new face of seduction looking back at you in every kind, steady mirror, yours. Chapter 1. The Psychology of Attraction. Here is the quiet paradox at the center of attraction. We try to be chosen by pretending to be more than we are, but people fall in love when they feel more themselves in our presence. We spend years polishing the surface, and yet the moments that change everything are always the ones where the mask slips and the truth breathes. If you look closely at why two people lean toward each other, it often begins long before words. There is an emotional climate that surrounds a person, a weather pattern of signals that say, "It's safe here," or "Be careful." The body notices the small things. The rhythm of someone's breath, the softness in their eyes, the way they pause to let you finish a thought, the steadiness in their voice when they disagree without trying to win. These are not tricks. They are evidence. Evidence that this person is at home in their own skin, and that being near them helps your nervous system find its way home too. Attraction is not just beauty or status. It is the relief of being understood without explanation. It is the feeling that your inner world is not too much, not too messy, not too strange. When that relief appears, chemistry follows, because chemistry is simply the body's yes to emotional safety. We are wired for this. The human brain is a social instrument tuned for connection. Our mirror neurons echo the expressions and moods we witness. The vagus nerve scans for clues of trust or threat, measuring tone and tempo more than content. Emotional memory holds the fingerprints of who felt like home and who felt like harm. When someone's presence reduces our internal noise, we register it as interest, even if we cannot name it. This is why the most attractive people are often the most regulated. They are not without feeling. They simply have enough inner space to hold their own experience without making you responsible for it. Around them, your pulse slows, your guard loosens, your imagination returns. In that space, attraction becomes less about impressing and more about relaxing into who you already are. Confidence lives here, in the territory of inner space. But let's be honest, many of us confuse confidence with arrogance, and in the confusion, we spoil what could have been beautiful. Arrogance is loud because it is afraid. It draws attention the way a fire alarm draws a crowd, through urgency and threat. It speaks in absolutes, interrupts the room, and treats difference as danger. Confidence is quiet in comparison. It is the calm that comes from belonging to yourself. It does not need to center you because you are already centered inside. You can say, "I don't know," without losing face. You can celebrate another person's gift without shrinking. You can set a boundary without turning the other person into a villain. Confidence is respectful because it is rooted. Arrogance is dismissive because it is unrooted and always negotiating for proof. When you meet a confident person, you feel bigger in their company, not smaller. That is the test. True confidence multiplies the room. Arrogance subtracts it. The balance between the two is found in humility with backbone. Imagine a tree in the wind. Arrogance is brittle. It snaps because it cannot bend. Insecurity is formless. It bends so much it forgets it is a tree. Confidence is flexible integrity, grounded roots, responsive branches. You can disagree and remain kind. You can be praised and stay human. You can be criticized and stay curious. And here is the secret. People are drawn to that balance because it signals reality. It tells them they are meeting a person, not a performance. When you live from this place, attraction grows in a way that feels earned, not manufactured. Now, let's talk about reciprocity, the quiet choreography behind every lasting bond. Emotional reciprocity is the willingness to match the depth you are asking for, to share in proportion to what you invite, to listen in the measure that you hope to be heard. It's not keeping score, it's keeping rhythm. If you ask for their story, you offer a piece of yours. If they show fear, you show patience. If you make a mistake, you repair it. Reciprocity is not symmetrical every moment, but over time it is mutual. Without it, the connection becomes a transaction. One person performs, the other consumes. One person confesses, the other collects leverage. We feel this imbalance in our bones. We become guarded, cynical, or tired. With reciprocity, trust stretches and relaxes like a healthy heartbeat. You learn each other's pacing. You find the line between support and rescuing, between sharing and oversharing, between interest and surveillance. You grow a shared language of care. In that language, attraction matures from spark into warmth. Notice how reciprocity changes the meaning of pursuit. In the old model, pursuit was a game of scarcity. Who can hold out longer? Who can manufacture more demand? In a reciprocal frame, pursuit is alignment in motion. You move toward one another at a speed that keeps dignity intact. You're not trying to create anxiety to prove value. You are offering clarity to invite choice. That clarity sounds like this: I enjoy you. I'd like to see you again. Or, I've noticed we want different things. Let's be honest with each other. Or even, I need more time to decide. The pursuit is healthy because both people have room to breathe. Space does not mean indifference. It means respect. If there is a single current running beneath all of this, it is authenticity, the slow-burning fuel of long-term attraction. Authenticity is not radical self-exposure. It is alignment. It is when your words, your actions, and your feelings cooperate. It is when your no is not a performance and your yes is not a strategy. Authenticity removes the hidden tax on closeness. You do not have to remember who you pretended to be. You do not have to maintain an image you never fully inhabit. You can relax into the ongoing task of telling the truth kindly. When you do, people feel it. They don't always agree with you, but they trust the signal. And trust is the cradle of desire. We want to be near what we can predict in the best sense, Not boring but coherent, not perfect but honest, not always available but reliably themselves. There is a practical side to authenticity that often gets missed. It organizes your choices. You stop building connections around potential and start attending to patterns. You stop negotiating against your needs to keep temporary peace. You recognize that attraction without compatibility becomes a beautiful emergency, intense, consuming, and unsustainable. Authenticity lets you choose the slow yes over the fast high. It opens the door to a kind of intimacy that strengthens under pressure because it is built on something deeper than performance. Shared values, shared language for repair, shared respect for each other's time and attention. In that soil, attraction becomes durable. It grows up, not just out. So, if you are listening to this and wondering what to do next, bring the conversation back to your body, back to the small moments where attraction is actually made. Breathe in a way that stays with you. Soft eyes, honest pace. Speak from the present, not the script you prepared to manage the outcome. Ask smaller questions that you can actually answer, and offer answers that do not audition for a role. Protect your boundaries as if they were the walls of a home you hope to share, clear enough to feel safe, kind enough to feel welcome. Notice reciprocity, like you notice weather. Plan accordingly, without resentment. And when your fear tells you to perform, remember this. The person who will meet you in the life you want is looking for the you who can live it, not the version you improvise to be chosen. We will spend this book exploring skills, practices, and stories that make these ideas practical. But for tonight, let this truth settle somewhere gentle. You are not behind. You are not broken for wanting more than the thrill of almost. Attraction is not a test you pass by doing everything right. It is a relationship between two living nervous systems learning how to breathe near each other. You do not have to be impressive to be magnetic. You have to be real enough that another real person can find you. As you close this chapter, consider one small experiment this week. Choose one conversation that matters. Notice the urge to perform and, for a moment, set it down. Match the depth you ask for. Let confidence be a quiet spine, not a raised voice. Tell one true sentence earlier than you usually would. Then pay attention to how your body feels afterward. Lighter, heavier, clearer, confused. Let that data teach you. This is the psychology of attraction made practical. Pay attention. Stay honest. Move at the speed of respect. When you live this way, the right people do not simply notice you, they recognize you. And that recognition over time is what turns a spark into a steady flame. Chapter 2. Breaking the Myth of Control. Here is the quiet tragedy. The more you try to control someone, the less of them you actually get. You might win the moment, but you lose the music. Control can make a person stay, but it cannot make their heart arrive. If we're honest, most of us learned love like a strategy. We studied timing, crafted perfect replies, rehearsed smiles that looked effortless, and hid our disappointment behind jokes. We called this confidence, but much of it was fear of being ignored, fear of being replaced, fear of being seen and found ordinary. Manipulation begins there, in the soft panic of not wanting to be hurt. It whispers, if I move the pieces just right, I will be safe. But safety built on control is expensive. You pay for it with your sleep, your honesty, and your joy. You end up managing a story instead of living a relationship, and the person beside you becomes an actor, reading a script they did not write. Manipulation destroys trust because it asks for closeness without consent. It tries to borrow intimacy from the future by pressuring the present. You can feel it when it's happening to you, the invisible tug that says you are being steered rather than seen. Your nervous system tightens. You start editing your truth. You watch your words like they are explosives. You become careful instead of connected. The bond may still look intact from the outside, but inside it is hollow, built on guesswork and self-defense. And once you have learned to protect yourself in a relationship, it is very hard to unlearn. Even tenderness feels dangerous, because tenderness requires you to set your armor down, and you no longer believe the room is safe. The myth of control is the myth of dominance, the belief that power over is stronger than power with. It attracts us because it looks decisive. It sounds like leadership. It promises certainty in a world that offers very little. But dominance is brittle. It depends on constant proof. It measures love by compliance and confuses fear with respect. It wins arguments and loses intimacy. True power moves differently. It does not sit on top of the connection. It sits inside it as a steady center of gravity. When you are grounded like this, you do not need to control outcomes because you trust your capacity to respond. You do not need the other person to be less so that you can be more. Your presence becomes a place where two realities can both be true without one being wrong. That is the soil where respect grows, and where respect grows, love has a chance to last. Picture two magnets. If one tries to dominate, the field becomes chaotic. Push, pull, flip, crash. But when both are aligned, the energy flows with less effort and more strength. Attraction is like that, not a contest to be won, but an exchange to be stewarded. In a healthy exchange, both people bring attention, both bring honesty, both bring boundaries and curiosity. The energy between you is not fuel for one person's ego. It is a shared fire that warms you both. You can tell when the exchange is right because time changes texture. Hours feel like minutes. Silence feels like a language. You do not leave the moment hungry for proof. You leave nourished by contact. This is why trying to win someone's attention backfires. The more you chase from panic, the more you teach the field between you to be frantic. The more you manipulate scarcity, the more you teach the field to be anxious. You might get flashes of passion, but you will spend the rest of your days paying the bill with drama. The body keeps the score, and the score says, connection cannot grow in pressure that pretends to be love. It grows in clarity and choice. I want you is clean. I need you to behave so I don't have to face my fear is not. When you release the contest, you invite a different kind of bond, one that survives the ordinary days. And most days are ordinary. That is where real love either dies of neglect or becomes quietly extraordinary. So what does it look like to step out of control and into something stronger? It begins with telling the truth without theatrics. Speak your need as a request, not a demand. Share your boundary as an act of care, not punishment. Name your desire without turning it into a test. And when you hear their truth, do not rush to negotiate it into a shape that soothes you. Let it be what it is. Control hears information as a threat. Presence hears information as guidance. The practice is noticing your impulse to manage and choosing to meet instead. Meet the moment, meet the person, meet the part of you that is afraid and still willing to love. Vulnerability is not weakness here. It is intelligent courage. It takes more strength to say I'm hurt than to play indifferent. It takes more strength to say I'm scared of losing you and I'm not going to punish you for that fear than to start a fight to create reassurance. It takes more strength to ask, what do you need right now, than to weaponize silence. Vulnerability is liberating because it returns you to your own side of the street. You stop trying to control what isn't yours, and you take exquisite responsibility for what is. Your feelings are yours, your choices are yours, your boundaries are yours. When you carry them with dignity, you become easier to love, not because you demand less, but because you explain more clearly what loving you actually requires. Consider the illusion of dominance in everyday scenes. The partner who always decides where to eat, pretending it's leadership while never asking what the other truly wants. the person who withholds affection to gain leverage, calling it standards, while teaching the room that love is a currency, to be rationed, the endless tests designed to measure loyalty, which only prove that trust can't breathe here. These behaviors might keep you from feeling small for a night, but they make the relationship smaller for a lifetime. Real power is the opposite. It makes the space between you larger. It makes both people more human, not more careful. It does not hoard control. It deepens consent. There is a quiet equation running underneath all of this. Control shrinks the field, vulnerability expands it. When the field shrinks, you get short bursts of intensity and long stretches of doubt. When the field expands, you get slower heat and steadier peace. If you have lived on adrenaline, peace will feel boring at first. Boredom is often your nervous system coming down from the high of constant alarm. Give it time. Learn the rhythm of ordinary tenderness, the check-in text that doesn't demand a story, the unremarkable meal where eye contact says more than compliments, the good-night message that arrives when it was promised. These are not grand gestures. They are the architecture of trust. Trust is not glamorous, but it is irresistible. It lets people stop bracing. It allows desire to wander without leaving. It is the difference between passion that burns out and passion that burns through. If attraction is an energy exchange, then your job is to keep your side clean. Don't send mixed signals to force clarity. Don't punish honesty with drama. Don't agree to terms you plan to resent. When you feel the urge to control, ask yourself what fear you are trying not to feel. Name it softly. Invite it to sit beside you while you choose better. The better choice is usually simple. Ask instead of imply, reveal instead of hint, repair instead of retreat. Simple is not always easy, but it is always cleaner. And clean energy is the most magnetic thing you can offer. Let me say the hard thing. Gently, control is often a grief problem. We try to choreograph outcomes because we do not trust ourselves to survive loss. But loss is not the end of love. It is one of its teachers. If you can face the possibility that this person can leave and you will still be you, then you are free to love them without turning them into your oxygen. That freedom is not coldness. It is devotion without the prison. It makes your yes more meaningful because it is not a survival strategy. It is a choice. People can feel the difference. They relax. They bloom. They meet you not as a hostage, but as a partner. As this chapter closes, I want to offer you a small practice you can try this week. In one conversation that matters, release one small control. Let the silence last 2 breaths longer than your anxiety prefers. Ask one direct question where you would normally hint. Admit one honest feeling without attaching a demand to it. Watch what happens to the energy between you. Notice your body. Does your chest soften? Does your jaw unclench? Does your attention widen? You are learning a new language, the language of presence over pressure, exchange over contest, love over leverage. The myth of control promised safety and delivered loneliness. Vulnerability promises uncertainty and delivers connection. Choose the path that makes you more human. Choose the kind of power that doesn't need to win, to be real. And when the old reflex to manage returns, as it will, smile at it like an old habit passing through. You are building something steadier now, a way of loving where no one has to lose for both of you to be held. Chapter 3. The Magnetic Mindset. Here is a simple truth that sounds like a paradox. The moment you stop trying to be interesting, you become magnetic. The moment you stop chasing approval, people lean closer. What changes is not your face or your voice. It is your center of gravity. Let's begin there, at the center. The magnetic mindset is not a trick you add on top of who you are. It is a calm you build underneath. It grows from self-awareness, the quiet habit of noticing what is true inside you before you rush to change it. Most of us were trained to scan the room first. Who is here? What do they want? How do I adjust? We shapeshift so quickly we forget our original form. Self-awareness reverses the direction of attention. You scan your inner weather first. Where is my breath? What story is my body telling? What feeling is asking to be named? When you do this, you stop arriving as a bundle of guesses and start arriving as a person. People can feel that. The room relaxes because you are not silently asking it to define you. Inner stability is not the absence of emotion. It is the ability to feel a wave without drowning. You don't need to become stoic stone. You need to become good at recovery. Your voice shakes. You slow down and keep speaking. Your heart races. You name it softly in your mind. Fear, excitement, both. And let your breath be a hand on your own shoulder. Stability is organized kindness toward your nervous system. You are telling your body the truth. We are safe enough to be here. We can handle this moment without lies. The more you practice that kindness, the more your presence changes shape. You stop gripping the conversation. You stop performing certainty. You listen without waiting to pounce. You let silence do a little of the work. That steadiness reads as confidence because it is. And confidence, when it is real, is simply self-trust in motion. Now, every magnet has a core. And the core of this mindset is a shift from validation seeking to self-worth. Validation is a quick high. It spikes and crashes. Self-worth is a slow burn. It glows and holds. The difference is in who owns the thermostat. When you live for validation, your temperature rises or falls with every glance. A text can ruin your morning. A compliment can replace a meal. A delay feels like rejection. You outsource your peace to other people's moods. When you live from self-worth, you still enjoy praise and feel the sting of criticism, but neither determines your value. You carry a baseline warmth that doesn't vanish when the room forgets to clap. This is not arrogance. Arrogance demands the world adjust. Self-worth adjusts your posture toward the world. It sounds like this inside. I am a person of value, whether or not this goes perfectly. I like you, I want this, and I will not betray myself to get it. You can feel the difference in your choices. You stop bargaining with your boundaries. You stop auditioning for people who are not hiring for the role of your life. You start investing your attention where it is reciprocated, not merely exciting. Presence and mindfulness turn this inner work into social warmth. Presence is not theatrical. It is ordinary and rare. It is the decision to land where your feet are. Instead of planning your next line while they are speaking, you go to them with your attention. You let their words rearrange your map of the moment. You notice details without clinging to them. Their laugh loosens your chest. Their hands fidget when they touch a hard memory. Their eyes brighten on a topic that matters. You respond to those living cues instead of forcing the conversation back into your prepared lane. Mindfulness keeps you from leaving yourself while you do this. You remain in your body, present to your breath, aware of your pace. You are not a mind chasing approval. You are a person sharing a moment. The effect is surprisingly strong. People experience you as clear, grounded, and generous, someone who doesn't disappear to be liked. If presence is how you listen, then values are how you choose. Aligned values create instant connection because they reduce translation. When the music inside you matches the rhythm inside them, understanding arrives with less effort. You don't need identical lives or opinions. You need compatible foundations. If you value honesty, you gravitate to those who can say, "I'm not sure," without shame. If you value growth, you notice the ones who repair after a hard minute, rather than scoring points. If you value kindness, you watch how they speak to the waiter when nobody is performing. Values alignment doesn't mean you never argue. It means your arguments still happen inside respect, and when respect holds, attraction deepens rather than dissolves. The connection becomes sturdier because it's built on something more durable. The novelty, the magnetic mindset, is not about being the loudest signal in the room. It is about becoming the cleanest. Clean signals come from coherence. Your insides and outsides match enough that people can trust what they see. This coherence is felt in the micro moments. You say you're fine, but your face is tight. Do. You pause and tell the truer thing. You promise to call, but your schedule can't hold it. Do you adjust now instead of ghosting later? You'd laugh at a joke that lands wrong. Do you let the smile fade and name your discomfort without a speech? Each small act of alignment strengthens your field. Over time, your presence stops asking, "Please like me," and starts offering, "Here is who I am." If that makes your life richer, let's walk a bit. Notice how this changes the way you enter and leave conversations. When you seek validation, you enter like a question mark and leave like a verdict. Did I impress them? Did I say the right thing? Did I win? When you live from self-worth, you enter like a comma, open, curious, and leave like a period, complete. The interaction matters, but it doesn't erase you. You can want someone and still be okay if it's not a fit. You can be interested without becoming invisible. This quiet okayness is magnetic because it's rare and safe. Rare because many people are addicted to the adrenaline of uncertainty. Safe because you are not trying to extract your identity from the other person's reactions. There is a practical rhythm to building this mindset. You keep small promises to yourself. You decide on a bedtime and follow it more nights than not. You choose food that helps your future self think clearly. You move your body in ways that reduce static. You speak one honest sentence earlier than usual. These micro-choices compound into a presence that doesn't wobble with every gust. They also make you easier to read, which makes you easier to trust, which makes you easier to love. Attraction, at its healthiest, is simply trust warming up. You will still feel the pull of old habits, the urge to over-explain, the itch to check your phone mid-sentence, the instinct to twist your preferences into whatever keeps the peace. When you notice these, do not attack yourself. Be curious. Curiosity is the most magnetic way you can relate to your own imperfections. It keeps you learning instead of hiding. There's the part of me that fears being too much, you might think. Thank you for trying to protect me. I've got this. That kind inner dialogue leaks into your outer dialogue. You become gentler with others' flaws because you've practiced with your own. People feel safer near someone who is both honest and kind. Aligned values also simplify goodbye. A magnetic mindset is not about collecting admirers. It is about recognizing matches. When values don't align, you can release the connection without turning the other person into a villain. The story becomes simple. We want different lives. Simplicity is merciful. It prevents resentment from growing in the cracks of unclear expectations. It frees you to stay available to the relationships that can actually hold you. And it teaches your nervous system a crucial lesson. You can let go and remain whole. So tonight, as you listen, let this land softly. You do not need to become someone else to become magnetic. You need to become more skillful at being you. Self-awareness is your compass. Inner stability is your ground. Presence is your bridge, and values are your map. Together, they create a field that feels like home. First to you, then to the right people. The compliments may still matter, but they are no longer oxygen. The silence between messages is no longer a cliff. It is a meadow where you can breathe and choose. As this chapter closes, try a small experiment in the next conversation that matters. Before you speak, notice your body and name your feeling in one word. As you listen, let your eyes soften and your shoulders drop. Offer one true sentence that does not aim to impress, and ask one question you genuinely care to hear answered. Later, ask yourself not, "Did they like me?" but "Did I like who I was with them?" Your answer to that question will teach you more about magnetism than any clever line, because the magnetic mindset doesn't start with being chosen. It starts with choosing calmly and repeatedly to stand where you are and meet the world from there. Chapter 4. Emotional Intelligence in Seduction. Here is the tender paradox of desire. People are not drawn to the most impressive person in the room. They are drawn to the one who understands them. We fall for the presence that makes our feelings make sense. We lean toward the voice that notices what we barely dared to say. Emotional intelligence in seduction begins with this quiet promise: I will not use your feelings against you. It is the decision to read emotion with empathy and precision, not as a code to crack, but as a language to honor. Most of us were taught to listen for content and miss the current underneath. But emotions speak in micro-signals. The breath that shortens when the topic turns personal, the laugh that arrives half a second late, the eyes that brighten at a certain story, then fall when the moment passes too quickly. You do not need a degree to read these textures. You need patience and a sincere wish to see the person where they are, not where you hope they'll be. When you listen like that, you stop interrogating and start attuning. Your questions grow smaller and kinder. How did that feel? Do you want to stay with this a little longer? I notice you went quiet. What happened inside? These are not techniques to gain advantage. They are invitations to let a truth breathe. And when truth breathes, attraction deepens, because the other person experiences themselves more clearly in your presence. Emotional calibration is what happens next. Calibration is the art of responding, not reacting, of matching the moment, rather than overpowering it. Reaction is fast and defensive. Response is slow and accurate. You might feel the urge to fill the silence, to fix the discomfort, to joke the tension away. Instead, you pause. You breathe once for both of you. You choose a tone that is a few degrees softer than the heat you're feeling. This softening is not weakness. It is leadership of the nervous system. You are telling the room, we are safe. Enough to feel this. Calibration means you share in proportion to what is offered. If they reveal a tender memory, you do not flood them with your autobiography. You offer one honest line from your own life and return the space to them. If they are excited, you rise to meet the spark without stealing the light. If they are uncertain, you slow your pace so they can catch up without being chased. This rhythm teaches trust. Trust is the ground where desire can play without fear of falling. Boundaries live here too, communicated with warmth, shaped by care. Many people imagine a boundary as a wall that pushes away. In practice, a boundary is a door that clarifies entry. It says, if you would like to be close to me, here is how. When your boundaries are cold, they sound like punishment. When they are warm, they sound like respect. Respect for yourself, respect for the other person, respect for the fragile life of the connection. A warm boundary is specific and kind. I like you and I want to move slowly. I'm happy to talk about this tomorrow when I've had sleep. I don't flirt when I'm with someone. I won't keep messaging if our plans keep getting cancelled. Notice the shape of these sentences. They tell the truth without theater. They don't corner or threaten, they clarify. Clarity creates safety. Safety creates play. Play creates attraction that lasts longer than the first spark. If you are worried that empathy will make you easy to manipulate, remember this. Empathy without boundaries is exhaustion, but empathy with boundaries is irresistible strength. It is not an accident that the people we trust most are those who can feel with us and still think clearly. Their hearts are open and their spines are firm. They can say, I see your pain, without making themselves the hero or the judge. They can offer presence without rescuing, space without abandonment. That balance is rare and it is magnetic, because it promises something we all want, to be held without being handled. When you become that kind of person, you change the feel of a room. People find their breath near you. They are braver with their truth. They forgive themselves more quickly. This is the kind of seduction that does not collapse in the daylight. It is a care that makes desire safer, sharper, and more honest. Consider how this looks in ordinary scenes. You are on a walk, and your companion grows quiet. You would rush to fill the silence, tell a story, ask a clever question. Magnetic, you notices the change and names it gently. We just got quieter. Do you want quiet, or is there a feeling trying to talk? Sometimes they say, quiet, please, and you honor it. Presence becomes the conversation. Sometimes they say, I'm scared to like this much, and you don't perform reassurance. You acknowledge the risk. Me too. Let's go at a pace that keeps dignity intact. You haven't solved anything. You've made it safer to be real. Or imagine a playful debate that starts heating up. You feel your defenses gearing up to win. Calibrated, you slows your voice, sits back and says, I care more about us than being right. Tell me the part you need me to understand. This does not erase disagreement. It softens the ground so the truth can land without breaking. There is a science humming beneath this softness. Nervous systems co-regulate. Heart rates synchronize, tone and cadence support or destabilize the body's sense of safety. When your tone is steady and your face is kind, the other person's body reads safe enough and opens the doors that stay closed under threat. Curiosity, humor, desire, creativity. Emotional intelligence is fluency in this invisible dance. You lead with steadiness and you follow with attention. You are not performing calm, you are practicing regulation. You are not playing therapist, you are being human with skill. People feel the difference. Performance tires them, skill relaxes them. Relaxation makes room for spark, but empathy is not only for tender moments, it is just as powerful in joy. When someone lights up talking about a book, a plan, a memory, meet them there. Ask one more question than necessary. Mirror their delight without impersonating it. Joy is a kind of vulnerability too, and many people have learned to hide it because it was once mocked or ignored. When you treat joy as precious, the person who carries it learns that brightness is welcome with you, that welcome becomes a signature of your presence, and your presence becomes a place they want to return to. Not because you flatter them, but because with you they get to be whole. Emotional intelligence also means owning your impact. Even with the best intentions, you will sometimes step on toes. You interrupt, you misread, you pull away too fast or hold on too long. The magnet here is repair. I think I missed you there. Can I try again? I got defensive. Let me reset. What would feel good right now? Space or closeness? Repair is attractive because it proves reality can survive between you. You are not building a fragile performance. You are building something that can bend without breaking. The ability to repair is stronger than the ability to impress. Impressive people are admired, repairers are loved. And then there is the question of self-empathy, the foundation of all the rest. If you refuse your own feelings, you will either demand that others fix them or punish them for reminding you they exist. Self-empathy is the simple, difficult practice of telling yourself the truth kindly. I am jealous. I am afraid. I want more, not to wallow, but to witness. Witnessing dissolves the shame that forces manipulation. When you make a home for your feelings, you do not need to smuggle them into someone else's life. You can share them cleanly or carry them quietly as the moment requires. That cleanliness is legible. People trust what is clean, even when they disagree. They feel safe near a person who is not at war with themselves. If all of this sounds gentle, it is, but gentle does not mean weak. Gentle is pressure applied with wisdom. Gentle can lift what force cannot budge. It can turn an argument into an opening, a goodbye into a blessing, a first date into a conversation that still echoes a week later. Emotional intelligence in seduction is the discipline of refusing shortcuts, No games to force a reaction, no tests disguised as jokes, no punishments disguised as silence. Instead, you offer clarity, curiosity, and care. You become a mirror that tells the truth with warmth. In that mirror, the right people will recognize themselves, and by recognizing themselves, they will recognize you. As we close this chapter, choose one small practice for the next conversation that matters. Before you speak, let your shoulders drop and your breath lengthen by one beat. When you notice a feeling, yours or theirs, name it softly without blaming. Offer one boundary as an act of welcome, not withdrawal. And if a rough moment arrives, try repair before retreat. Then ask yourself afterward, not did I win, but did we understand each other more? Let that be your measure. Because in the end, seduction that endures is not a performance that dazzles. It is a presence that understands, and understanding offered with warmth and protected by boundaries is a kind of beauty that keeps inviting you back, long after the lights have dimmed and the room has gone quiet. Chapter 5. The Language of Ethical Seduction. Here is the paradox at the heart of all desire. The truth is more seductive than the perfect line. The more you try to control a moment, the flatter it sounds. The more you let reality breathe, the more the room leans in. The language of ethical seduction begins with honest communication, not as a punishment for fantasy, but as the foundation that makes romance feel safe enough to grow. Honesty is not dumping everything you think onto the table. It is the craft of saying the most important truth with care. It is the difference between blurting and naming, between shocking and clarifying. When you speak honestly, you remove the background noise that forces people to guess. You lower the static inside their minds. You give them the dignity of choice. I like you, and I'm curious. I'm moving slowly because I want this to last. I'm not ready for that yet, but I want to keep learning you. These sentences are not clever. They are clean. Clean language is magnetic because it lets people stop bracing for the twist. The absence of games creates presence, and presence is what turns attraction from a spark into a steady flame. If communication is the architecture, storytelling is the warmth in the room. Ethical storytelling does not manipulate emotions. It invites them. It does not inflate you into a legend. It locates you as a human. What captivates is not grandeur, but specificity, the detail that could only belong to you. The scent of rain on the morning you left your hometown, the crooked nail in your grandmother's stair, where you used to sit and listen to secrets, the exact song that always makes you breathe deeper at red lights. You do not need to perform a plot twist. You need to let a real moment be seen. When you do, you create a bridge between worlds, yours and theirs, wide enough for tenderness to cross. And when you listen to their story, you do not stand there, waiting for your turn. You walk into their memory with your attention and look around as if it were your own. What color was the kitchen when she told you that? Where did you feel it in your body when you heard the news? These questions are not tactics, they are respect. Respect is irresistible because it says, your life is not a prop, it matters. The voice carries this respect before the words arrive. Tone, pace, and timing are non-verbal instruments that tune the nervous system of a conversation. A voice that is slightly slower than anxiety invites the body to settle. A tone that drops at the end of a sentence, soft, grounded, signals safety. Pauses are not empty space. They are frames that make meaning visible. When you let a story breathe, you let the other person feel themselves in it. If they laugh, you do not rush to top it. You give their laughter the dignity of landing. If their eyes gloss with a feeling, you do not sprint past it to save them. You hold a warm silence that says, we can be here. Your hands, your posture, your eyes, they speak too. shoulders that loosen when the moment is tender, eye contact that opens and releases like the tide, a nod that says, "I'm with you," without stealing the scene. None of this is performance. It is mindful hospitality. You are furnishing the space so truth can come out of hiding. Timing matters because desire has a rhythm. Too fast, and you create friction that burns without light. Too slow, and momentum dies under the weight of carefulness. Ethical seduction is musical. You listen for the tempo of the moment and play within it. If the conversation quickens with joy, you rise a little and let playfulness enter your voice. If the energy softens, you do not yank it back to witty. You descend with it and let the low notes hum. You do not tease to create anxiety. You tease to create aliveness, which is a different thing. Aliveness is the spark in the eyes when the mind is safe enough to wander. Anxiety is the tightness in the jaw when the soul is being cornered. Learn the difference. One pulls people closer, the other pushes them into themselves. Truth is the unexpected engine of intrigue. We are used to being sold. We are used to people packaging themselves in highlight reels, curating personality like a storefront. When someone says something simple and real, the mind wakes up. I want to kiss you and I'm nervous. I'm tempted to impress you, but I'd rather let you meet the unpolished me. I don't have the perfect story. Only this moment, and it's enough for me. Truth makes room for mystery because it eliminates the noise that distracts from it. Mystery isn't secrecy. Mystery is the space that honesty preserves so that the unknown can arrive on its own time. When you tell the truth, you create trust. When you create trust, the hidden parts of both of you feel safe enough to step forward. That emergence is the most beautiful surprise in love. Some people worry that honesty will make them ordinary. The opposite is true. Most people are hiding behind armor they cannot carry for long. When you put down yours, you become rare. Not dramatic, rare. Your presence stops negotiating for worth and starts offering a clean signal. Here is who I am. That signal attracts the people who are searching for it and filters out the ones who are not. You save everyone time. You stop making deals with your own boundaries. You stop treating your heart like a sales pitch. You become the kind of person who can be loved in the same room where they tell the truth, which means you can be loved in a life that is actually yours. Ethical communication is also brave about limits. You say no in a way that protects the friendship inside the romance. I don't flirt to force closeness. I won't ignore what I need to keep the peace. If we disagree, I won't punish you with silence. I'll ask for space and I'll come back. These are not threats. They are promises that make desire safer. And when you keep those promises, when you return after space, when you repair after a misstep, when you admit, I was unkind, let me try again, you become trustworthy. Trust is the deep perfume of attraction. It lingers after the scene. Changes. It turns I want you into I can build with you. Notice how your language changes when your aim is not control, but connection. You stop using compliments as contracts. You stop turning questions into traps. You stop confessing in ways that demand rescue. Instead, you speak like someone who can hold their own life while making room for another. You say thank you without keeping score. You apologize without begging. You appreciate without angling. You ask for what you want without pretending you don't. The conversation stops feeling like a maze and starts feeling like a path you can walk together, even if you do not yet know where it leads. There is joy in this kind of talking. Real joy. The joy of saying something true and watching the other person relax, not because you dazzled them, but because you met them where they live. The joy of telling a small story and hearing "me too" in a voice that carries relief. The joy of laughing without proving anything, of sitting in silence that feels like a soft hand, of leaving a night with fewer masks than you had in the morning. You begin to understand that language is not only for information, it is for regulation, for offering calm, for sketching a future that feels possible. Your words are bridges, your tone is the river under them, your timing is the weather, and your truth is the light that makes it all visible. If you worry that this is too simple, remember, simple is not easy. Simple is focused. You will feel the pull to perform, to keep the old habits alive. Fine, smile at the urge and choose differently once. Then again, your voice will learn its own honesty. Your timing will learn the breath of the people you love. Your stories will stop auditioning and start belonging. Bit by bit, your language will match your heart, and when language and heart marry, people can tell. They come closer, not because you trick them, but because they feel more themselves with you than without you. As we close, I want to leave you with a small question to carry into your week. What is one true sentence you have been avoiding because you feared it would make you less desirable? Say it softly, to the right person at the right time. Watch what happens to the air between you. Notice if your shoulders drop, if your laughter comes easier, if the silence turns friendly. This is the language of ethical seduction. Clean words, warm tone, patient timing, stories that honor rather than manipulate, and truth that does not shout to be heard. Speak like this, and you will not only attract the right people, you will recognize yourself when they arrive. Chapter 6. Authentic Confidence. Here is the strange truth most people miss. The more you try to look confident, the less confident you feel. The act of managing the image steals the energy that would have made you real. Confidence is not a mask you put on, it is a home you return to. Authentic confidence begins with integrity, not image. Integrity is simple. Your words and actions shake hands and mean it. You say what you will do and then you do it, even when no one is clapping and no one is watching. Small promises kept to yourself build a spine you can lean on. You don't have to be perfect. You have to be consistent enough that your nervous system learns a crucial lesson. I trust me. From that trust, charisma rises naturally. Not the loud kind that begs for the room, but the steady kind that makes the room breathe. When people meet you, they can feel that you are not borrowing power from their approval. You carry your own. This makes you easier to read, and anything that is easy to read becomes easier to trust. Trust is the quiet halo around real charisma. Grounded energy is what makes this charisma unmistakable. Grounded energy is not low energy, it is organized energy. It is the difference between a floodlight and a campfire. The floodlight is bright but blinding. The campfire is warm and invites people closer. You cultivate it through simple practices that put you back in your body. Slower breathing than your anxiety prefers, shoulders unhooked from your ears, a pace of speech that respects silence. You do not rush to fill space. You let your presence do some of the talking. When you ask a question, you stay long enough to hear the answer reshape your understanding, not just confirm your guess. This groundedness tells the room, we are safe enough to be here. And safety is magnetic in a culture that runs on adrenaline. People lean toward what calms them without dimming them. Your steadiness becomes a harbor where play can happen without panic. Image chasing breaks this magic because it turns the moment into a performance. You watch yourself from the outside and forget to live from the inside. You laugh a half inch, higher than your real laugh. You say yes before your gut has spoken. You focus on how you are being seen instead of what you're actually seeing. It can impress for an evening, but it will not hold intimacy. Intimacy asks you to be present, not polished. When your attention returns to the person in front of you, how their eyes change when they talk about their brother, the way their voice drops when they speak about work they secretly love. You stop auditioning and start relating. Relation is what attraction is made of, not theater, contact. Contact born from integrity is quiet, and quiet confidence echoes louder than any pose. Fear of rejection is the enemy that keeps many of us performing. It whispers a simple equation: if you are real, you will be left. So we bend, we decorate, we negotiate away the parts we fear won't be loved. But every time you betray your center to avoid a no, you teach your body a painful lesson. I am only safe when I disappear. Self-alignment is the antidote. Self-alignment is not stubbornness, it is clarity with kindness. You let your values make decisions before your panic does. You choose the slow yes over the desperate maybe. You say, I like you, without pricing the sentence in advance. You remember that a no is information, not a verdict. When you live this way, rejection loses its teeth. It may still sting, but it no longer defines you. It becomes proof that you are sorting your world according to truth. And a life sorted by truth accumulates matches faster than a life arranged by fear. There is a practical rhythm to overcoming the fear. First, notice your body the moment it rises. The tight jaw, the shallow breath, the urge to send a second message before the first has been read. Instead of shaming yourself, regulate. 2 longer exhales than usual. Name the feeling, fear, hope, both. Speak to yourself as you would to someone you love. I can want this without begging for it. I can care without collapsing. The tone you use with yourself becomes the tone you use with others. People feel it. They sense that you are not asking them to complete you. You are inviting them to meet you. Invitations feel like freedom. Demands feel like debt. Freedom grows attraction. Debt kills it. Calm assertiveness is the voice of freedom in action. It is the ability to own your preferences without turning them into ultimatums. I like slow mornings. I prefer to plan, even if loosely. I'm looking for something that grows. Assertiveness clarifies the path. Calmness keeps it welcoming. When calm is missing, assertiveness turns sharp and the room braces. When assertiveness is missing, calm turns vague and the room drifts. Together they make a posture that says, here is where I stand. You are welcome to stand near me, and I will not chase you to keep you here. There is deep magnetism in someone who knows where they stand and leaves space for you to stand too. It signals abundance. I don't need to take your ground to keep mine. Notice how calm assertiveness changes the small moments. At a table, you ask for what you want without apologizing. On a walk, you slow your pace for a feeling that needs time. In text, you choose clarity over cleverness because you respect both of your attention. When conflict arrives, as it will in any real connection, you do not flash and flare to force a win. You breathe, restate what you heard, and then add your truth. I care more about us than being right. Here's what I need. This is not passivity. It is strength that refuses spectacle. Others will mistake it at first, because many have only seen confidence dressed as dominance. But the body knows. The body hears the regulated voice and relaxes. Relaxation opens doors that fear keeps locked. Curiosity, humor, desire, repair. Over time, authentic confidence turns your life into honest math. You spend less energy reading rooms and more energy building a room worth entering. You leave conversations complete instead of hollow because you did not perform for a prize. You gravitate toward people who like you where you live, not where you pose. That shift alone will change who stays. The ones who need a show will drift. The ones who wanted a person will arrive. You don't have to accuse or explain. Your steadiness will do the sorting. This is not loneliness. It is alignment doing its quiet work. If you have lived on applause, quiet will feel like a loss at first. Let it. In the quiet, you will hear yourself more clearly. You will meet the unperformed version of you. The one who laughs with their whole lungs, who says no without drama and yes with both feet, who stops checking the mirror because the view from inside is finally enough. From there, charisma becomes effortless. You are not trying to glow. You are well lit from within by the simple fire of self-respect. You don't need to be the most interesting person in the room. You need to be the most honest version of yourself. In the room you're in, honesty travels. It announces you before you speak. Let's speak to ambition, because confidence is not laziness. Authentic confidence wants things deeply. It pursues, but it pursues with dignity. It makes the call. It sends the message. It asks for the meeting. And when the answer is no, it recalibrates without self-abandonment. It treats not now as weather, not prophecy. It keeps moving. People watch how you lose. If you can lose, without losing yourself, you become someone others trust to hold their hopes. That trust is rare. Rare things attract. Tonight, try a small practice. Choose one area of your life where you have been performing more than participating. In your next interaction there, lower your shoulders by 1 inch. Speak one sentence slower than the sentence wants to rush. Tell one truth earlier than you usually do. Ask for one thing you actually want instead of hinting toward it. And afterward, ask a better question than, did they like me? Ask, did I like who I was with them? If the answer is yes, you are building the kind of confidence that lasts, the kind that does not crack under scrutiny because it was not glued together by praise. As we close, remember this: you are not behind. You are not late to your own life. Authentic confidence is not a costume you have to buy. It is the natural shape of you when fear is not piloting the moment. Build it from integrity. Feed it with grounded energy. Protect it with self-alignment. Speak it through calm assertiveness. And then watch gently as the right people find you, not because you shouted the loudest, but because your quiet said something true and their quiet answered back. Chapter 7. Emotional Resonance and Chemistry. Here is the strange miracle of connection. 2 ordinary sentences spoken in a quiet room can feel like lightning. No special effects, no perfect script, just 2 nervous systems recognizing safety at the same time, and suddenly the air begins to glow. We talk about chemistry like it's magic, and in a way it is, but it's a very human kind of magic. Chemistry begins in the body, before your mind has enough evidence to approve. It's the way your shoulders drop around someone without being told, the way your voice finds a natural pace, the way laughter arrives from deeper in your chest. This relief is not random. It's a signal safe enough. And when the signal is mutual, the room becomes a small country where both of you can breathe. Genuine chemistry is less about spectacle and more about recognition. You are not just meeting a face. You are meeting a rhythm that fits your own. A person who makes you feel more yourself is the person you start to crave, because selfhood is the most addictive substance on earth when you've been starved of it. Think of each person as a radio with many stations: joy, fear, curiosity, pride, grief, play. We tune ourselves all day to survive. Some rooms turn up our caution, others turn up our bravado. The rare person turns up our clarity. Synchronizing emotional frequencies isn't about becoming identical, it's about finding a shared tempo that lets both radios play without static. You notice their cadence and soften yours a little. You see their eyes brighten at a topic and you stay. Not because it's your favorite, but because you can feel life waking up in them. You don't mirror like a trick, you attune like a friend. Over minutes, something invisible begins to line. Up breaths match, pauses match. Even the way you look away and return finds a common beat. This synchrony is felt as intimacy, and intimacy is felt as desire, not because you forced an outcome, but because you created conditions where 2 realities could hum together without one drowning the other. There is simple science underneath this tenderness. Your brain is a prediction engine, always asking, am I safe? Am I seen? Mirror neurons rehearse other people's movements and feelings inside you, which is why a genuine smile warms your own body faster than a polite one. The vagus nerve listens to tone more than words, sorting voices into friendly, neutral, or threat. Oxytocin rises in the presence of trust and touch, making closeness feel rewarding. Dopamine tags novelty and anticipation, but without safety, it burns out like a sparkler, bright, short, empty. Even your heart rate begins to echo the person across from you when the conversation is honest, a quiet phenomenon called physiological coherence. None of this guarantees love, but it creates a body-level yes that the mind can then build upon. This is why chemistry is so hard to fake and so easy to feel. Your body recognizes congruence faster than your stories do. The mistake many of us make is trying to manufacture chemistry with performance. We turn up volume when what the moment needed was warmth. We rush the punchline when what the soul wanted was space. We make being interesting more important than being present and wonder why the spark won't land. Presence is the missing ingredient. Presence is listening with your whole body. Eyes that aren't searching for the next move. Breath that doesn't race to fill silence. Attention that lets another person finish their thought on the inside before you respond on the outside. When you offer this, you give the nervous system a gift it rarely gets: unhurried contact. And unhurried contact is the exact soil where chemistry grows roots. Deep listening is a seduction superpower, not because it flatters, but because it regulates. When you are listened to well, your body shifts from defense to discovery. You say more than you planned and feel lighter for it. You hear yourself. The person who created that space becomes associated viscerally with relief and aliveness. That association is not manipulation, it is memory. Your cells remember where they could tell the truth without punishment and be met without being managed. If you want to become magnetic, learn this art. Ask smaller questions that invite real answers. Track the emotion, not just the facts. What? A part of that stayed with you? Where did you feel it? Do you want to keep talking or do you need quiet? Respect the answer, even when it isn't convenient. Listening like this doesn't slow connection. It accelerates trust. Trust is the slow fire that makes chemistry bright without burning everything down. Synchrony doesn't mean sameness, it means range. Chemistry deepens when both people can travel across emotional stations together. Joy is easy. Can you stay? And in confusion, flirtation is fun. Can you remain curious in disagreement? Attraction that only works at one frequency will keep demanding that frequency until your life becomes narrow and loud. Attraction that can breathe across feelings becomes sturdy. It can hold a hard day without collapsing and savor a soft day. Without hurrying, this range is what people sense when they say, "I don't know, I just feel like I can be myself around you." What they mean is, "My whole station panel is welcome here." Let's be practical. Chemistry requires signals, and your body is constantly sending them. The way you turn your shoulders towards someone when you want more, the clean no you offer without apology. The smile that reaches your eyes because you are not forcing it to. These cues teach the space between you how to behave. If you chase, the field becomes frantic. If you withdraw to punish, the field becomes anxious. If you stay steady and clear, the field becomes warm. Warmth is not passivity. Warmth is permission. It tells the other person, "You do not have to earn my attention through crisis. You already have it." Let's see what's true. Notice, too, how truth fuels intrigue. We think secrets create mystery, but often they create distance. The truth, offered with respect, creates curiosity that lasts. I like you, and I'm pacing myself. I don't know where this is going, but I enjoy where we are. I want to kiss you, and I want to keep talking first. These sentences do not resolve the unknown. They protect it. They give the unknown time to arrive as experience instead of being strangled into certainty. The brain loves this kind of honest suspense. It keeps paying attention, not because it's being tricked, but because it's being trusted. You will still feel the urge to earn chemistry through display. That is normal. When it rises, let it remind you to come back to what actually binds: shared pace, clean signals, steady presence, and the courage to let silence be part of the conversation. The silence between two people is not empty, it is a canvas. If the canvas feels hostile, fill it with gentleness. Soften your face, slow your breathing, let your eyes rest rather than scan. If the canvas feels warm, don't rush to cover it with chatter. Let the warmth speak. It's telling both of you something about the life that might grow here. There is another truth worth naming. Chemistry without respect becomes a beautiful emergency. It's intense, dramatic, and exhausting. Respect without chemistry becomes a polite friendship. The sweet spot is the overlap, a living pull held inside mutual care. You can help the overlap appear by choosing alignment over adrenaline. You don't need to turn dates into tests or conversations into performances. You need to keep returning to the question, can both of our nervous systems be well here? If the answer is consistently no, that's not failure, it's information. If the answer is often yes, you're in the presence of something that can last. Deep listening also means listening to yourself while you listen to them. Can you notice the moment you start to leave your body? Can you feel the tug to say what will be liked instead of what is true? Can you sense the part of you that wants to speed up because slowness feels like risking rejection? Self-awareness turns those inner whispers into choices. You breathe, you slow. You tell one small truth earlier than usual. You ask for a pause. This is not selfishness, it's calibration. And calibrated people are easier to love because they don't ask others to do their emotional regulation for them. If you want a simple practice for the days ahead, try this. In one conversation that matters, match the other person's pace for 3 minutes. Don't mirror their opinions, match their tempo. If they're thoughtful and slow, slow with them. If they're bright and quick, rise without racing. Then ask one question about feeling, not fact. Then leave one extra beat of silence after their answer. Watch what happens to their eyes, their breath, their shoulders. You are learning to tune, not to perform. Tuning is humble. Humble is hot. As we close this chapter, hold this in your hands like a smooth stone. Chemistry is not a prize you win. It is a field you co-create. You don't force it, you don't beg for it. You prepare the ground, presence, honesty, rhythm, and you pay attention to what grows. If it grows, tend it. If it doesn't, bless the field and move on. Somewhere, someone's frequencies are searching for yours. When they arrive, may they find you listening with your whole body, speaking with your whole truth, and brave enough to let the space between you be a place where both of you can finally breathe. Chapter 8. Redefining Power in Relationships. Here is a quiet revolution. The strongest person in the room is not the one who wins, but the one who makes it safe for two people to win. Real power is not a throne, it is a bridge you can both cross. Without losing yourselves, we inherited old maps of power that were drawn like battle plans. Someone must lead, someone must follow, someone must be right, someone must surrender. These maps create adrenaline, not intimacy. They teach us to measure love in victories and concessions, to treat conversation like a courtroom, to turn tenderness into a currency that can be withheld to gain leverage. It looks decisive on the surface and feels empty underneath. Because the truth is simple, domination can make a person stay, but it cannot make their heart arrive. Fear may organize behavior, but it cannot nourish love. What does nourish love is mutual empowerment, the kind of strength that does not press down, but lifts up, the kind that turns two nervous systems from opponents into partners. Mutual empowerment begins with a different definition of power. Power, as capacity, not control, capacity to self-regulate when your feelings surge, capacity to listen when your story is loud, capacity to set a boundary without building a wall, capacity to be moved by another person's reality without abandoning your own. When two people carry this kind of power, the field between them changes. Conflict doesn't vanish, it becomes a place where clarity gets made. Desire doesn't dominate, it coordinates. Safety is not a prize you win at the end of an argument. It is the ground you choose at the beginning. You can feel this ground in small moments. You're both tired, the day has been unkind, and a sharp comment slips out. The old map would start the blame machine. The new power pauses, breathes, and says, "I'm irritated and I still respect you. Let's try again." Respect becomes the first language, and everything becomes easier to translate. Respect and reciprocity are the circulation system of a healthy bond. Respect says, "You are not a tool for my comfort. You are a whole world I choose to honor." Reciprocity says, "We will match effort with effort over time. Neither of us will carry this alone." Together, they build a rhythm where care flows in both directions. You notice how reciprocity changes the tiny logistics of love. One person cooks, the other cleans without being asked. One person plans the date. The other picks the movie and pays attention to the details that matter. Where you like to sit, what time your energy is sharpest, the song that resets your day. This isn't accounting. It's music. When the music is reciprocal, resentment has fewer places to live. You don't perform kindness to gain leverage. You offer kindness because the shared life is yours too. And when inevitable imbalances appear, a sick week, a deadline, a family crisis, you don't keep score, you rebalance. Reciprocity is not perfect symmetry. It is a promise to return to the middle together. There is a beauty in the meeting of strength and softness that old dominance never understood. Strength without softness becomes brittle. It must keep proving itself and eventually snaps. Softness without strength becomes shapeless. It cannot hold a boundary and eventually dissolves. Balanced polarity is the meeting of both, steel and velvet, spine and heart. In practice, it sounds like this: "I want you. I won't pressure you. I disagree. I'm not leaving the conversation. I'm hurt. I need a moment and I will come back." The room hears both firmness and welcome. This balance is deeply attractive because it signals maturity. It tells the body, here is a person who can feel with me and still think clearly. Here is a person who can hold steady when I cannot. Desire relaxes into this steadiness. It stops chasing storms and starts cultivating weather. Power redefined shows up in how you pursue too. Old power performs scarcity. Hard to get as a tactic, silence as a weapon, mixed signals as a test. New power performs clarity. It is not afraid to be specific. "I enjoy you. I'd like to see you Thursday." If the answer is no, you accept it without humiliation or revenge. Because you are not gambling for dominance, you are searching for alignment. The courage to accept a no without making it a story about your worth is the quiet mark of someone who can love without hostage-taking. When both people practice this, the dynamic becomes clean. You don't owe each other anxiety to prove interest. You owe each other honesty to protect dignity. Emotional equality does not mean sameness of temperament or identical roles. It means equal worth, equal voice, equal right to boundaries, equal right to repair. It means both people's inner worlds count when decisions are made. It looks like asking, "What does good look like for you?" before assuming your version is universal. It looks like noticing who stretches more around holidays, who compromises more around schedules, who carries more invisible labor, and letting respect change your behavior, not just your rhetoric. Equality is not a speech you give about values. It is the pattern your days trace when no one is watching. The body reads patterns, not promises. When the pattern is equal, attraction deepens because it finally has a place to rest. If you want to feel what this power tastes like, imagine a disagreement where you both stay. Voices lower instead of rise. You repeat back what you heard before defending what you meant. The aim is not to win. The aim is to understand. You may still walk away without total agreement, but you will walk away with dignity intact. You will also walk away with data about each other's histories, triggers, and needs that makes tomorrow kinder. That kindness is not sentimental. It is strategic. It builds resilience. It turns two people from a fragile performance into a durable partnership. There is science underneath this softness. Nervous systems co-regulate. If one person can slow their breath and keep their face kind, the other person's body receives the message safe enough and options expand. Prefrontal cortex comes back online. Language returns. Humor returns. Possibility returns. The old maps glorified urgency. The new power glorifies regulation, because regulated people can choose. They can apologize without shame and forgive without superiority. They can say, "I need space," without turning space into punishment. They can say, "Come closer," without turning closeness into ownership. Ownership is the ghost of domination. Partnership is the heartbeat of mutual empowerment. Balanced polarity is also playful. Many of us think equality ends the dance. No more edge, no more spark. The opposite is true. When both people are safe, they can take more creative risks. Flirtation becomes lighter because consent is clear. Invitations can be bolder because rejection is survivable. You can switch roles, lead and follow, play strong and soft in different scenes, without fear that one moment will harden into a permanent hierarchy. You get to be more of yourselves. And being more of yourselves is the oxygen chemistry has been begging for. Let's bring this to the ground. The language of new power is untheatrical and specific. I respect you, so I'm going to be clear. I want to understand. Say it again in a different way. I need a boundary here. I'm saying it to protect us both. These sentences do not try to intimidate, they try to orient. Orientation is sexy because it reduces confusion. Confusion breeds anxiety, anxiety breeds games. Orientation breeds freedom, freedom breeds desire. When you can trust the space, you can play in it. When you can play, the bond strengthens without needing constant crisis to feel alive. A relationship built on emotional equality is not without pain. You will still miss each other. You will still say things you wish you could unsay. But repair will come faster, not because you are perfect, but because power is no longer a contest. The apology is not an admission of defeat. It is an act of care. The changed behavior is not a surrender of self. It is an investment in the shared life. You realize that protecting the we protects both me and you. This shift from me versus you to us versus the problem is the quiet hinge that transforms couples into partners. As this chapter settles, consider a small experiment this week. In one conversation that matters, try leading with respect before you lead with logic. Mirror back one sentence you heard before adding your own. Offer one clear preference without apologizing for it, and invite one preference from the other person without needing it to match yours. If conflict appears, ask, what would make this feel more equal right now? And listen for the answer you didn't predict. Notice what happens to your breath, your shoulders, your voice. Notice what happens to theirs. You are practicing a new power, the kind that doesn't need to put anyone beneath it to stand tall. In the end, dominance is noisy and short-lived. Mutual empowerment is quieter and built to last. Choose the power that multiplies the room. Choose respect that does not waver when you're tired. Choose reciprocity that returns you to the middle after every storm. Choose strength that carries softness like a secret blessing. And when you find someone willing to choose it with you, treat that agreement like the rare and living thing it is. That is not just love. That is a way of building a life where both of you can grow taller without casting a shadow on the other. Chapter 9. Ethical Seduction in Practice. Here is the tender paradox of attraction. The moment you stop trying to be chosen, the right people begin to recognize you, not because you became louder, but because you finally became legible to yourself. Let's make this real. Imagine Maya, who used to treat dating like a second job. She studied messages like puzzles, scheduled replies for maximum effect, and carefully adjusted her personality to match whatever archetype the other person seemed to want. It was exhausting, and worse, it produced connections that collapsed as soon as she paused to breathe. One afternoon, after another coffee that felt like an audition, she tried a different experiment. She walked to the next date without a script. Before she sat down, she noticed her body, jaw tight, breath high, and softened both. When her date asked what she was looking for, she told the truth without drama. "I'm interested in building something slow and honest. I move at the pace of trust. No performance, no edge." The conversation changed temperature. Instead of performing wit, they exchanged specifics. The relief of cooking with someone who doesn't rush you. The sound a quiet Sunday makes when the person beside you likes silence too. The way a certain book rearranged their sense of time. Whether that person became her partner didn't matter as much as what happened inside Maya. She realized she could speak plainly and still be interesting. She realized that honest sentences didn't make the room smaller. They made the room safe. That safety, felt in her breath, heard in her voice, was ethical magnetism taking shape in real time. Now consider Amir, who used to lead with charm. He was funny, fast, unforgettable at parties, and often alone afterward, scrolling for reassurance he couldn't keep. When someone finally told him gently, "You're dazzling, but I don't know where you live," he heard the truth he'd been avoiding. He started practicing what he called one honest thing. In every meaningful interaction, he added one sentence that cost him a little courage. At a rooftop dinner, "I hype myself when I'm nervous. Thanks for bearing with me." On a walk, "I want to impress you, but I'd rather let you meet the unpolished version." In text, "I'm interested and I'm pacing myself." The effect was immediate. His timing got quieter. His eyes stopped scanning the room for the next audience. People felt him arrive. Some drifted away. He wasn't their show anymore. The ones he was actually looking for came closer because they could finally hear the person behind the performance. He discovered the simplest form of power, the kind that isn't rented from applause. Ethical magnetism is not a trick. It's the byproduct of alignment. It shows up in how you ask for things. The old you hinted, the aligned you asks cleanly. "I'd like to see you Friday." "I want to kiss you. Are you open to that?" "I need to end early. I don't want to rush what matters." It shows up in how you receive things. The old you negotiated with red flags. The aligned you believes patterns. You don't punish honesty with drama. You don't reward inconsistency with access. You let the reality in front of you matter more than the fantasy you can spin. This is not coldness. It's respect for your time, for their sovereignty, for a future that deserves clarity. Rewriting your dating or social narrative begins with this permission. Retire the character you built to survive. Maybe your old script said, "I'm only valuable when I'm brilliant," or "I must be accommodating to be loved," or "I create intensity to feel alive." You do not need to set that script on fire. You need to edit it line by line. Replace cleverness as a shield with humor that isn't hiding. Replace accommodation with collaboration. Replace intensity with presence. You will feel awkward at first, like speaking a new language with an accent. Good. Accents mean you are crossing borders. Every time you keep a small promise to yourself, leaving a conversation when your energy is gone, Telling a truth before your fear writes a story, choosing a person who chooses you without confusion. You add a paragraph to the new narrative. Over months, those paragraphs become a life you recognize. Turning self-discovery into social confidence is less dramatic than the videos suggest. It is made of micro-decisions that teach your nervous system a new baseline. You take 2 longer exhales before you answer a vulnerable question. You slow your speech when the topic matters, even if the other person moves fast. You notice the impulse to over-explain and choose a single clear sentence instead. You practice repair. I missed you there. Can I try again? I got defensive. Give me a breath. With each small act your body learns, we can be here without a mask. Confidence grows not from perfect outcomes, but from repeatable processes you trust. You stop gambling with grand gestures and start investing in consistent ones. Consistency is sexy. It turns curiosity into attachment without the detour of chaos. Let's name what authenticity does to a room. It doesn't make you the loudest. It makes you the clearest. People stop guessing and start relaxing. The room begins to behave differently around you. A friend asks for advice and you say, "Do you want comfort or clarity?" Someone flirts aggressively and you meet it with warmth and a boundary. "I like the energy. I move slower." At work you say, "I can do this by Thursday, not Tuesday," and your word earns weight. At home you apologize like a person who knows their value isn't on trial. "I'm sorry for how I spoke. Here's the change you'll see." Authenticity doesn't erase conflict. It reduces collateral damage. It makes your presence a reliable signal in a world full of static. Real-life examples live in the small exchanges. You're on a first date. They're funny, but the jokes sometimes land as jabs. The old story, you laugh along, go home buzzing, with confusion. The new story, you smile and say, "I like your wit." When it tilts sharp, I feel a little distant. Could we keep it playful without the sting? Their response gives you data you can actually use. Or you're months into something promising and schedules start slipping. Old you interpret silence as a challenge to win. New you asks, should we recalibrate expectations or is this a season? I prefer clarity over guessing. If they meet you, the bond strengthens because you didn't make them read your mind. If they don't, you haven't lost time to a story that was allergic to truth. Ethical seduction also means honoring other people's no without turning it into a referendum on your worth. Someone says they aren't available. You believe them. You let disappointment be a feeling, not an identity. You don't pivot into contempt to soothe your ego. You don't keep knocking on a door that has been shut kindly. You leave the door flowers, respect, and you walk. This generosity keeps your field clean. Clean fields attract clean people. It is astonishing how quickly your world changes when you stop bargaining with reality. There is a softer layer to all of this, how you treat your own fear. Fear of boring someone, fear of being too much, fear of wanting more than the moment can give. You do not bully that fear into silence. You acknowledge it and parent it. You get to ride, but not drive. Then you choose the behavior that aligns with who you're becoming, not the one that validates who you were. Confidence is self-respect, practiced often enough that other people can see it. When they see it, the right ones don't try to talk you out of it. They make room beside it. They add their steadiness to yours. That's how companionship begins, not with fireworks, but with two good centers agreeing. If you're wondering where to start this week, begin with the simplest practice. One clean ask, one honest boundary, one moment of deep listening. Clean. Ask, "I'd enjoy a call on Wednesday evening. Does that work for you?" Honest boundary. "I like where this is going and I don't want to text late into the night. I'm better when I sleep." Deep listening. When they answer, resist the temptation to top their story. Instead, ask the question that helps them hear themselves. What part of that mattered most to you? Then let the silence do a little of the work. Silence is not an absence, it's an invitation. If the moment wants to move, it will. If it doesn't, you learn something without forcing it. Ethical magnetism is contagious. Your friends will notice that your choices are cleaner. Some will step toward you. They were waiting for permission to live like this. Others will step away. Their story needs more noise. Let them. Alignment is not an accusation, it's a filter. The more aligned you become, the less you'll need to explain yourself, and the more you'll be able to recognize the people who speak your emotional language. The world does not get smaller when you become authentic. The wrong rooms get quieter and the right rooms start to hum. As we close, I want you to try a gentle question tonight. If a camera followed you for one ordinary day, would it capture a life that tells the truth about what you want? Not the biggest dreams, just the patterns. The way you greet yourself in the mirror, the way you ask for time, the way you let another person finish a thought. If the answer is not yet, good. Not yet is honest. Pick one pattern and change it by 1 degree. Record how your body feels when you do. That sensation, lighter chest, softer face, steadier breath, is your compass. Follow it. Ethical seduction in practice is nothing more or less than this. Choose clarity over performance, dignity over drama, presence over pressure, and watch patiently as your connections begin to match the person you are finally letting yourself be. Chapter 10. Becoming an Ethical Seducer. Here is the beautiful contradiction at the heart of attraction. The less you try to be irresistible, the more people feel drawn to you. Not because you learned a secret line, but because you started living. In a way that tells the truth gently and consistently. To become an ethical seducer is to build a life that does the inviting for you. It begins long before a message or a date. It starts with private habits that shape public presence. Magnetic people are not performing magic. They are practicing maintenance. They wake their body kindly, not as an enemy to be conquered, but a partner to be trusted. They drink water before opinions. They check their breath before they check their phone. These small rituals tune the instrument so the day does not play them. They play the day. When your nervous system is regulated, your attention is generous. And generous attention is the purest form of charisma. People feel safer around you without knowing why. Your steadiness says, you won't have to work to be seen here. That promise is rarer than beauty and more compelling than bravado. The habits of genuinely magnetic people are quiet and repeatable. They keep small promises to themselves until their self-trust becomes audible. They plan enough to be reliable and leave enough space to be alive. They speak in complete sentences and let silence complete a few for them. They do not scatter their worth across a dozen apps, hoping someone will gather it. They gather themselves so that any room they enter becomes simpler. They have a ritual for beginning and ending things, a way they start a conversation with presence, a way they close a night with clarity. These rituals are not superstitions, they are declarations. I do not rush the important. I do not leave the meaningful messy. When repeated, such declarations become a signature others learn to read. Living in emotional integrity daily sounds grand, but in practice, it is specific. It means your no is as honest as your yes and arrives with the same warmth. It means you. Notice when you are tempted to buy connection with self-betrayal and choose dignity instead. It means you practice repair quickly, so little harms do not grow teeth. It means you ask yourself often, what would the kindest, truthful action be in the next 5 minutes? And then you do that. Integrity is not a mood, it's a method for speaking without theater and listening without surveillance. A method for holding your boundary as an invitation. If you want to be close to me, this is how. Over time, this method turns you into a lighthouse. You don't chase boats, you stay lit. The right travelers orient to you because light makes maps honest. Ethical seduction is not a refusal of desire. It is desire carried with dignity. You want, you name it. You don't corner it into happening. You don't use confusion to create leverage. You let people meet you with their full agency intact, because anything less is not closeness. It's choreography. When you live this way, you begin to notice a ripple effect. The people around you start editing their own scripts. Friends who once ran on crisis begin to consider calm. Dates who once equated mystery with silence start to try simple truth. A colleague apologizes without a hedge after watching you own a mistake without collapsing. A family member stops testing love with distance because you keep returning with clarity instead of drama. This is the quiet influence of a regulated life. It invites others to try self-respect on for size. You cannot control whether they accept the invitation. That is not your job. Your job is to keep the field around you clean. Clean means you don't flirt to gather attention you won't honor. Clean means you don't offer intimacy to fix your boredom. Clean means you don't punish honesty with punishment or reward inconsistency with access. The more clean your field, the more clearly you will see matches and misalignments. You stop arguing with evidence. You stop pushing a broken door. You stop auditioning for rooms that are allergic to reality. And remarkably, your compassion grows, not the kind that saves people from their patterns, but the kind that refuses to make their patterns your prison. Part of becoming an ethical seducer is rewriting your relationship with time. Manipulation uses time to press, delay to create urgency, silence to create panic, speed to bypass consent. Integrity uses time to clarify, pauses that let the truth catch up, pacing that respects nervous systems, endings that happen when endings are honest. When time is used for clarity, people stop bracing around you. They trust that a quick yes is not a trap and a slow yes is not a tease. They trust that if you need distance, you will say it without turning space into punishment. This trust frees. Play. And play, when it is safe, becomes heat. The future of seduction is not an upgrade of old tactics. It is a different premise, authenticity as revolution. In a world that trains us to curate surfaces and monetize attention, authenticity is rebellious because it refuses to treat people as resources. It treats them as realities to be met. This revolution will not trend loudly. It will spread quietly in kitchens and chats and city walks, where someone chooses clarity over performance, and the moment exhale is audible. Authenticity is not the overshare of everything all at once. It is the steady alignment of what you feel, what you value, and what you express. It is being easy to read in a way that makes you easy to trust. As more of us practice it, seduction stops being a contest and becomes a craft. The craft of building rooms where truth looks good on both. Of you, craft grows with attention. Notice how your body responds to different kinds of connection. The person who leaves you buzzing and empty. The person who leaves you steady and lit. Start choosing with your nervous system's wisdom in mind. Ask not only, do I want them? But who am I with them? If you like the person you are in their presence, clear, kind, curious, pay attention. That is data more valuable than chemistry alone. Chemistry without character will sell you a beautiful emergency. Character with chemistry will sell you a long life you actually want to live. Make your home a rehearsal studio for the life you're inviting. Music that calms you open, books that extend your range, a table set for conversation, even if it's only you tonight. Call a friend and practice unglamorous kindness, the check-in without a crisis, the laughter that doesn't require a punchline. Warmth is a muscle. If you only use it to impress, it will always threaten to leave you. If you use it when no one is watching, it becomes who you are. And when warmth is who you are, attraction stops being a costume you borrow. It becomes the weather you bring. You will not live this perfectly. On some days, fear will win around. You will send the extra text, defend the unnecessary point, pretend not to want what you want. Fine. Repair is part of the ritual. You pause, breathe, tell the truth sooner and begin again. The only thing you can't do is make your worth contingent on flawless execution. Worth is your baseline. Habits make it visible. The world will tempt you with shortcuts. The line that gets a quick laugh, the pose that gets a fast like, the edge that makes attention spike. Tell the world respectfully that you are building something heavier than that, something that can hold its shape in daylight. If there is a single sentence to carry from this chapter into your week, let it be this: be the person whose presence is a permission slip. Permission to tell the truth without being punished. Permission to feel without being handled. Permission to want without being shamed. You cannot give that permission to others until you give it to yourself. So write yourself a gentler script. I will not outsource my value. I will not weaponize my silence. I will not confuse intensity with intimacy. I will not ask for devotion I do not offer. I will move at the pace of respect. As this series closes its circle, consider one experiment that could alter the shape of your days. Choose a small ritual that aligns you, a 3-breath pause before you answer, a 1-line truth you will say earlier, a boundary you will hold with warmth, a gratitude you will speak without trying to bargain for more. Then watch your life for the ripples. The easier laughter, the calmer goodbyes, the texts that feel like sunlight instead of weather reports. And sometimes, the quiet departure of people who needed you to be confusing to stay. Bless them and continue. Authenticity will remove what cannot hold it, so that what can hold it can find you. The future of seduction belongs to those who can be fully human without turning their humanity into a performance. If you become that person, regulated, honest, attentive, unhurried, you will not have to chase rooms. Rooms will change when you enter them, not because you conquered anyone, but because your calm made space for 2 people to win. Let that be your revolution, a life arranged around truth so generous that it teaches others to be brave too. And when the day ends and the lights are low, may you hear the simplest evidence that you're on the right path. Your own breath, steady and soft, telling you without applause that you are someone you can trust. Conclusion: the power of honest attraction. Here is the last paradox and the simplest truth. The most seductive thing you can offer is not perfection. It is reality, spoken with warmth. Tricks can steal a moment. Truth can light a life. When you stop performing and start relating, desire stops being a chase and becomes a homecoming. Honest attraction begins quietly, the way dawn begins. No fanfare, only a steady light, making everything easier to see. You feel it in your body before your mind can brand it. Shoulders that fall, breath that thickens with calm, a voice that doesn't need to climb to be heard. The room changes because you are not trying to conquer it. You have nothing to sell and nothing to hide. You are simply present, and presence, offered cleanly, is rare. It lets other people become more themselves beside you. That is why truth seduces. It returns people to their own clarity. They want to stay near wherever they can think, feel, and breathe without punishment. Ethical magnetism grows from that clarity. It is the slow fire of integrity, the scent of trust that lingers after the moment ends. You do what you say, you repair when you miss, you move at the speed of respect. You ask for what you want without turning it into a test. You hear no and let it be a sentence, not a wound you must avenge. This kind of steadiness is not glamorous, but it is irresistible. It saves time, prevents guesswork, and protects dignity. It raises every room you enter, because it raises the quality of attention inside the room. People speak more honestly when you do. People listen more tenderly when you do. You become a mirror that tells the truth with kindness, and in that mirror, the right faces keep returning. There is a quiet elevation that happens when you live like this. Your relationships become places of practice instead of theaters for performance. Conversations become laboratories where curiosity discovers what control could never invent. You stop bargaining with red flags and start believing patterns. You choose ordinary goodness over extraordinary drama and discover that ordinary goodness is what the heart has been searching for all along. Even ambition changes shape. You still want, but you want without grasping. You pursue, but you pursue without panic. You leave a night with fewer masks than you brought and call that success. This is not a finish line. It's a lifelong rhythm. Tell the truth a breath sooner. Hold a boundary a degree warmer. Listen with your whole body for one more beat. Some days you will revert to the old moves. That's fine. The work is to notice and return. Return to the exhale that makes space. Return to the sentence that doesn't audition. Return to the person you can trust when the lights are low and no one is clapping. Every return makes you brighter in a way that doesn't shout. Brighter like a hearth, not a spotlight. So let this be your quiet vow as the chapter closes. I will organize my life around what is real. I will measure chemistry not only by sparks, but by the calm that follows. I will keep my field clean. No mixed signals to force clarity, no flattery to buy affection, no silence to manufacture fear. I will let my yes be an invitation and my no be a kindness. I will practice a language where desire does not need disguises, and respect never has to ask permission to stay. And if you want a single question to carry forward, make it simple. Who am I when I am with them? And do I like that person? If the answer is yes, tend that place. If the answer is no, thank the moment for its lesson and walk. The world is full of rooms. You only need the ones where your honesty looks good on both of you. In the end, this is the secret that isn't a secret. Authenticity is not the opposite of attraction, it is its engine. Live in a way that lets the truth breathe, and you will. Not need to chase attention. Attention will recognize you. It will find you in the calm, in the clarity, in the small, brave choices that make a life you can love from the inside. That is the power of honest attraction. To make you irresistible, not by making you more, but by letting you be fully, beautifully, undeniably yourself. If this episode stirred something real, like subscribe and enable notifications, save this. To watch later, share it with your friends. I'll see you next.